Honest with Jasmine Brand. Now, this show is executive produced by Meyer Fatto, and I am super excited because this is the final episode of our first season. The season has been nothing short of amazing. We have talked to some of your favorites in entertainment and Hollywood, and this episode is really going to highlight some of our hilarious and memorable and entertainment moments. So sit back and relax. First of all, you're pretty private. Yeah, but you kind of, we know you have a relationship, but you are private about it. You did say that you were in a relationship at one point with more than one
relationships.
Person. You're in relationships.
I'm in a relationships.
You are in a relationships. Is it always a relationship? Is it always relationships, or is it sometimes singular, or is it sometimes?
No, it's been pretty much the same since before. Since nothing's changed since whatever was televised was.
So you're in a relationships.
Yeah, I'm a very comfortable place.
Okay. Yeah, can you get married if you're in relationships?
I think if they, we accept everything else. If all these other laws pass, and if you can financially have it, handle it romantically, handle it physically, handle it, then you should be able to do whatever you want to do with your love in your heart. There's a lot of women out here chasing monogamy, and a lot of men chasing monogamy, and they're trying to get it from people that it doesn't really exist in. We're out here shopping for the frozen foods in the bread aisle.
Yeah.
And that's why it's not fitting. But if we're able to find each other and find someone who supports you and your mind, and find a person that feels like family, because at the end of the day, the only reason we talk about, for the most part, I don't want this person with that person, because you don't want them having sexual encounters with that person. You're like, they're getting the same intimacy I'm giving. She was screaming, saying, it's mine. He was saying, this mine. Uh-huh. And we can't own each other.
Yeah.
From what we come, we can own that part of what we believe our love is, but it took a long time for me to even feel like, even I feel now, because I had that thought process back in the day. One person break your heart, now I'm walking 8 miles to prove my love to someone who obviously didn't want it in that moment, and giving them control of us. But I feel like loving yourself, love who you want to love, because you're not going to be able to love for long. And if you don't find a comfort, like just a safe place to even be able to converse with someone about how you really feel about life. And what do you find out? You find out within your friends, you find out within a unit. But we'll tell people in a minute, it'll take a village to raise a child. But what about the true villages around our relationships? If we think about the successful kings and queens, there were other people around for voices. There was other opinions. It wasn't just the two. It was, so I've always seen that, and then I was able to bring it to life and with honesty as much as we can.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Not a surprise birthday party tomorrow, honest, but but enough where it's acceptable to us.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to hear that, everybody said, that wouldn't be me. It wouldn't be, because it's not you.
Because it's not you.
It also wouldn't be you.
I'm not secure enough. I'm not.
People say that, but you are. You're just choosing because of, we have things we're used to.
Yes. Maybe if I'm not open in that way, but I'm not secure enough. Like I would be like, oh, what if what if he likes her more? I would be thinking
impossible,
like that.
Though.
No, possible. I would be thinking that.
No, it's impossible. Then that meant that was never for you.
Maybe.
In any kind of light. If they can like you more, I don't care what, there's girls who've been with me. I'm sure there's some monster dudes out here, some super lover dudes they went before me. I'm not.
But you don't think.
But I'm not gonna go, oh man, I'm not doing it as hard. No, I'm like, man, she ain't with that.
I'm not doing it as hard.
I'm not doing it as hard as she did. No, it's like, yo, you was with dude and buddy gone for a reason. You're a whole different.
But you're very secure. You're very confident. It comes off in your jokes. So I feel like.
No, I'm not gonna act like I don't be like. Last night when I walking in the club, my girl looked up. I was like, you saw that nigga? You like that? This is what you want to do? But I can make it jokes and make it more comfortable where it's like, it's just, you definitely have to accept it. You definitely have to accept that we are forever window shopping. If you don't, you're not going to know what you look like, what you want to look like, what you want your woman, like you can see something like, I like that outfit, and you should be able to tell your woman, I think you look good now, without her going, you think that bitch look good?
That's different though. Okay, all right.
Is it?
Bootsy Collins named you Babyface. How did that come about?
It was really simple. We were in the studio doing demos with him, and I remember it was KO and LA Reid in the studio, and I just walked in. KO was playing bass, and I walked in, and Bootsy looked at me. He goes, "Yo, that Babyface." And we've been looking for a nickname for me in the deal all the time, because everybody had cool names. It was D, Carlos, Stick, KO, LA, and Kenneth Edmonds. CC, you laugh.
I mean, it's not. It's just.
I know that's how it was.
So you didn't have a nickname before Babyface?
No.
Okay. And so he said, you just came and he just kind of nonchalant said, oh, yeah.
He goes, no, he didn't say you have a baby. He just said Babyface.
Oh, like that's your name.
And that like it was already my name, and I didn't like it.
You didn't?
No, I didn't like it. And I didn't like it until we were out on the road. This is about 85, and still Kenneth Edmonds and D. There used to be this song I would sing called "Sweet November" every night, and he'd say, "Get up to Kenny Edmonds, Kenneth Edmonds, whatever it was," and there'd be a little bit of love. And after the show, nobody was checking for me. And then one night he goes, "Give it up to Babyface." And that night I had more girls come out to ask, "Where's Babyface?" So I liked my name then. I changed it.
I was going to ask you if Babyface wasn't your name. Did you have another name in mind that you think would have worked?
They were trying Romeo at one point.
Romeo.
Yeah.
Oh, I kind of can see that. No, yeah. I mean Babyface is better.
Yeah. It didn't stick, and it was Muskegon.
Muskegon.
Yeah. I know it doesn't make sense. It was my Pac-Man handle.
That's hilarious. Musical magic that you and Toni Braxton have. We love the music that you guys do together. There's like this chemistry that you and her have. I feel like you guys have the secret sauce. What is it about her talent or her personality that kind of you all are able to make these hit records together? It's like I don't know what I feel like it's a secret sauce or something.
I think the main thing that when we first heard Toni with her sisters, and she sat down on the piano and sung, the one thing I picked out of her voice was that she had this pain that was in her voice. And for me as a songwriter, I love pain. It's just early stories.
Right.
And that's what I could, that's where I write from. Whether it's love, what's a painful kind of thing. And she just has that voice that can deliver that. So it was an easy matchup from just early days because that's where I was always writing. And so interesting because like the very first song that she did, that she kind of had success with, that she did one of the demos with was "Love Should Have Brought You Home," which was actually written for Anita Baker.
So you wrote that for Anita Baker?
Yes.
Okay.
And
how did Toni end up getting it?
Toni ended up getting it because we sent it to Anita and she turned it down.
Okay.
Another turn
That's
down.
easy, yeah.
And she just said, when we sent it to her, she said, why don't y'all have that little girl sing that y'all send it to? Y'all send it to the one saying she was good. She should sing good. And so she ended up singing it. She sung that, and she also sung "You Mean the World to Me," which was another song that I tried to give to Anita.
Anita turning all of them down.
But so to a certain extent, a little bit of that. There was a little bit of Anita in Toni Braxton early days, if you remember, because she sung like she had. Because I told Toni to sing like you got water in your mouth.
And then around this time, did you start doing the credit card stuff? Or
yeah.
So you had a little credit card hustle that did.
Yeah, that's called the paper game.
The paper game.
Yeah, the paper game, it involves anything you can use to get money. And I like that idea. I say, damn, I felt like Robin Hood because I ain't taking from nobody. I ain't hurting nobody. And these banks got all the money. So the paper game was, you know what I mean? I said, man, I love this.
You did well with the paper game.
I did very well with the paper game. So with the paper game, I had to have this international mentality. So what we did was we took other people's credit cards and started nation hopping. So I went all through the Caribbean, all into South America.
What you would do is you would take someone's credit card number, but you would make your own credit card.
That's when I found out really the power of dressing, right? So what I did was I said, man, I'm going to figure out how to make these credit cards, same way I did with fashion. I said, but before fashion hadn't started, I'm going to figure out how to make these credit cards, right? So what I did was I got the power of a suit is amazing. So I put on a suit, white shirt and tie, and I went down to the World Trade Center where they had a company down there that made the machines.
Right.
So that I can see what the machines look like that make the credit cards, right?
Yes.
So I go down to there and where they got the machines and they sell them from. So I see what the machine look like. Come uptown, find out what company got them machines, and I send my little man go in there and steal that machine. So from there, now I got to figure out how to get the numbers off and put my numbers on.
Right.
You know? So what I did then was I said, okay. I ain't gonna tell you, I don't want to create no criminals. So anyway, so I figured out.
They can read the book and figure it out, but go ahead.
So what I did was I figured out how to get the numbers off, right? So now I need numbers to put on. So I get my little man again. We go downtown and we go through all these rich neighborhoods and we go through the garbage. See, back then, when you use your credit card, they had this black carbon.
Yeah.
And
they did like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and they threw the carbon in the garbage. So
yeah. Okay.
at night, we go downtown and get all the garbage, come up and cipher through the garbage, and I get the numbers. So
what an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But you ended up going to jail, out of the country. You went to jail.
Yeah. So we went on the road. We went to 7 or 8 different countries, right?
You did well.
So we in Barbados, and I'm starting to feel. I've been to 4 countries already. I'm starting to feel like something might go wrong. So we leave Barbados and we go to Venezuela, and Venezuela is soldiers like. I said, damn, they rob people. The soldiers rob people here. So I got real nervous in Venezuela. So we left out of Venezuela and we go into Aruba. Now we're in Aruba and we're making a killing in Aruba. And all of a sudden, somehow the paper blows up. What that mean? The paper blows up. Somebody made a mistake out of my crew that I had.
Yes.
But I didn't know they made a mistake. So now I'm on the island and I can't get off the island. And I see police cars shooting up and down the avenue. I said, damn, they looking for me, man. Next thing I know, they got me. So I did 9 months in foreign jail there.
Was that was in
Aruba?
Aruba?
Yeah. But in the process, I mastered that game. That's when I came back.
You came back, you had money.
Yeah. And then I told everybody, all the guys who I had working for me, I used to make them listen to a record every day in the car.
Know when to hold them, know when to fold them.
Know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, know when to run. You never count your money when you're sitting at the table. There'd be plenty of time for counting when the deal is done. And I didn't spend a dime.
But then
I saved all my money. I told everybody that the government didn't even know how this was taking place.
Right.
Right. I said, when they figured it out, I said, a new law is coming into effect that's going to deal with this. I told them to leave it. And I walked away from it.
You talked about the 3 touch points. Can you tell me about the raid?
Yeah, so we get cease and desist orders, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the brands, Gucci never raided, right? You know, they sent the cease and desist, but they never raided. Like it was MCM and Fendi. But every time they raid, they take all my machines and anything with their logo on it. You know. After that, they kept taking all my stuff. I kept getting raided. So that's when I went into the underground.
Okay. So so tell me about the underground.
Well, in the underground, because I knew all the gangsters in all the different cities, I shut down and opened up an underground operation.
Okay.
And I would travel from Harlem and hit all the black cities from Harlem to Chicago and come back and then hit all the black cities from Harlem to Atlanta. And that's how I've sustained myself for like the 29, 30 years underground. I refuse to give up.
So you were kind of like, you had like a traveling store,
But I would be in Harlem too. I had my team in here and I'll do the traveling because people knew me. They wanted to see me. They wanted to take pictures with me. They wanted the feel of them.
Right.
Yeah.
So you did that for a while.
30 years.
Right. Did you miss having a brick and mortar? Or you preferred doing the underground thing?
I love traveling because as soon as I hit the highway, I felt good. Something about traveling makes you feel good. I was away from, because all my clients, every day I was hearing gangster stories, murder and mayhem stories every day.
Right.
And I'm hearing no kind of stories, but at the same time, I'm doing spiritual studies.
Right.
So that was like, I was being ripped apart.
So imagine that we're these, women going up against that type of system. Yeah, I was taking anything I could take to try to calm my mind.
Right.
To try to settle my stomach, getting up every morning knowing I got to go back into this. You know?
When did you know it was a problem?
When I was no longer working, I was no longer in the midst of like the height of the craziness.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, now I could get back to my regular life. And I thought I could just turn it off. I mean, I kind of knew I couldn't because over time it just gotten increasingly worse.
Okay.
But there was a particular moment when I was just like, I'm going to go cold turkey. I had a friend who went cold turkey.
Okay.
And she was like, telling me, you can do it. It's going to be 2 or 3 days. You're not going to feel well.
Okay.
But eventually you'll get better. And I tried that particular day and I was extremely sick and it was like really painful. I think my situation that was different from hers is that I was taking more than one type of medication, right?
Yeah.
I was, taking my anti-anxiety meds, the Xanax, whatever other, the Percocets, whatever I could get. And so I think she didn't have that. So she was able to stop. Whereas for me, there were many triggers happening in my body at once.
Okay. And so you went to rehab?
I called Jason Williams, the NBA All-Star. We know he's had so many different challenges with abuse of alcohol and different things. And, we all know the story. And Jason's such an incredible man. And I'm so grateful to him because I was looking online and trying to find programs. And I had a couple concerns. One, I needed to go somewhere that was outside of my insurance network.
Okay.
Because, insurance covers a certain type of thing. And I needed something a lot more intense.
Okay.
I knew that there was actual mental health stuff that had to be addressed that they were not dealing with at the local treatment program.
Yeah.
And so the other thing I didn't want to get addicted to another drug
that was going to get you out of it.
The first thing. And most of the treatment programs, that's what they were offering.
Okay.
So, and then the other thing was I couldn't afford it to go to the places that had what I needed.
Right.
I couldn't afford it. So I call him up and I'm like, Jason, this is a thing. And I talked to him about it for, I guess, 6 months, 7 months. And every time he was like, okay, you could go tomorrow. You got your bag. Like, that's the way it works. Like, people can get you in tonight if you really, really want to go. And I would be like, oh no, I got this march next week and I'm doing this and that. And he'd be like, listen, sis, whenever you're ready. But he would always either send a message or call me and say, because if you think about Jason Williams' life, he says, you got to deal with it before it deals with you because nobody knows about it right now. You have it under wraps. Nobody knew. My family didn't know. No one knew. And he's like, no one knows about it. But eventually something's going to happen and everybody's going to find out. And at that point, you no longer control your narrative.
At all.
Right?
Yeah.
At the point that somebody finds out you're buying it on the black market, at the point that, you accidentally have an accident or you get arrested somewhere and they find it in your bag or whatever. At that point, you no longer have the ability to tell your story from your truth, it's going to be other people's narrative. And I was like, damn, and eventually it just got to the point. One of my colleagues one day, was just like, nah, something's wrong with you. Like, I could see it, it's not, something's up. You gotta get whatever that is together. And that was the moment when I said, I'm ready. And within a week, I was checked in.
How do you wish ESPN had handled that situation?
The only thing I wish they would have handled differently, like, I understood the suspension. This is like when you even insinuate about a boycott, especially of a league that they have $1 billion deal with, there's going to be some smoke with that. I did understand that I violated ESPN's social media policy with Trump. They don't want you to personally attack politicians, for sure. Got it. What you cannot do is that when you have somebody in that position with that authority, with that machine of the government behind them, you can't let them come after a journalist of yours. Okay. That is, to me, an egregious sin. I come from an old school newspaper background.
I think that's an old school thinking.
It is an old school thinking, right? And so that's my mentality, because I've worked at plenty of papers where they've had, aggressive investigative journalists that have gone after the politicians in that city, because that is what journalists are supposed to do. You're supposed to hold the people in authority positions accountable. And whenever the city government tried to bring the smoke, they had their reporters back. And so when ESPN didn't do anything after Trump personally attacked me after Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the former press secretary, said what I did was fireable. That's when I knew our relationship was irretrievably broken.
So your mother is conservative. Mm-hmm. What was her reaction to the tweets that you fired off about a former president?
It's a combination of being conservative and being old school. Like, she is from, maybe it's generational, but I'll just say from the generation where you respect the office no matter whoever's in it.
Okay.
And so her position was mostly about that. Her other thing too is that, you know, at that time, I have this very high profile job on SportsCenter. I'm making a ton of money.
Yep.
Right. And she's just like,
lose your good job, girl.
Exactly. You know, the elders just say, you lose that good government job. Like, that's how she was sort of thinking about it very practically. And, you know, as I make no bones about it in the book, it's like, I didn't like the response. I was like, you know, as I told her when she said that about respecting the office of the president, I was like, it's hard to respect it when the person in it doesn't respect it.
Yeah.
Right. And so, you know, she constantly was asking me like, well, you know, is it worth it? And, you know, I think she thought that because of all of the conversations about Trump at the time, and that have continued, that I was being too influenced by this perception of him, and that I was wagering something that was way too costly and, you know, wasn't worth it. And so I didn't really want that conversation. To be honest, after that is happening and you have you know, what feels like the whole world attacking you.
Yeah.
I didn't need the lecture, right?
Yeah,
I needed her to just
support.
The support.
Yeah.
The support did come.
Yes.
You know, I want to be very clear about that. But initially, I think it was just the shock of it. She just kind of immediately went to opine, and I was like, I don't really need all that.
Yeah.
So,
but also, I'm sure, and you know, she has a different experience, and you know, her daughter is this big TV sports journalist, and she is successful. I don't want anything to jeopardize that.
Correct.
You know, so I'm sure she's, you know.
Yeah, she was thinking of it that way. Thinking of, you know, in her mind being a protective you know, mother. It's like, you've worked really hard to get to this point, to this platform. Why risk it all for some hot takes on Donald Trump? And I was like, you know, I mean,
because I got Naomi in me. That's why, Mom.
Yeah, exactly. Like, don't act like you don't know the daughter you raised. Of course, I got something to say about this fool.
Yeah, that's hilarious. So let's talk about how you ended up on the Breakfast Club. You got a Facebook message from...
Boogie D. So he wanted me to come to Philly to do the radio station there.
Okay.
And, you know, at the time, it was another money issue.
Okay.
Because I was like, all right, if I'm going to move to Philly and do morning radio, I need to make more money.
Yes.
And it really definitely was. And honestly, I'm glad I did that because they came back around and offered me double what they offered me the first time.
Philly did, or?
Philly, after I turned it down. And then Atlanta approached me.
Okay.
Shout out to Frank Ski, because he was the person that really wanted me to come there. And then their manager, their program director, Reggie, reached out to me, Reggie Rouse. And that didn't end up happening. But he was trying to talk to me about doing a different slot other than mornings.
Okay.
And so
Reggie was?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then New York came last.
Okay.
And so I remember I was at a meeting with with Jay Stevens from Radio One, and they were like, it was really nice. It's a great feeling to have those type of problems where everybody wants you. Like honestly, it was amazing. It was hard decisions that I had to make, but it was a good position. Those are good, hard decisions.
Right.
And so I was leaving from meeting with them. They were like, we want you right now. Like, we will hire you on the spot.
Radio One?
Yeah.
Okay.
They were like, can we please get you? And I was like, well, let me think about it. Because I also am not a fan of making decisions on the spot where there's contracts involved.
Okay.
You know, you have to have a lawyer read it. You have to negotiate. Whatever somebody gives you, you never just take it.
Yeah.
And so I'm walking back to the car, and what I learned from this is everybody in radio talks to each other.
Okay.
Because it's not a coincidence that I'm walking back to my car and then somebody calls me from 105.1. Somebody told somebody who was like, yo, call her now. And so I'm walking back to the car and they're like, listen, we have an opportunity for you here and it might take a little while, but are you interested? And I was like, absolutely. And I had to turn down the job in Philly in order to wait and hope that the job in New York would work out.
So you turned down jobs in anticipation of another job that hadn't really panned out yet.
Right.
Okay.
Because that's how radio is too. Like, they might tell you you're going to get something. Even with my new show, I knew about it for so long before I could talk about it. And so and you're negotiating for a long time, it could fall through.
Yeah.
And so anything could happen. I mean, think about it. A pandemic happened.
Right.
And we have been talking about me doing something before the pandemic.
Okay.
And so there's people that had contracts on the table to be negotiated that happened, and then it just didn't go through.
Okay.
And so it is a really tricky business, and it is risky to say, I'm going to hold out and wait for this. But I ran into Wendy Williams and Kevin Hunter. It was a party.
Okay.
It was something like for T.I.
Okay.
And they were at the
It was
party.
in New York?
Yeah, it was in New York. And I didn't really know them. Like, I had interviewed Wendy on my show a couple of times, but nothing major. And so she stopped me and she was like, hey, hold out for the job in New York. Don't go to Philly. And I was like, because like I said, everybody talks. And so I guess she had heard about it. Somebody must have said something to her. And I was like, that is crazy. She was like, trust me. She was like, do not do that. Just hold out for that job. And I did.
Wow. So Wendy Williams gave you some good advice.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know where it came from or what, you know, because she didn't really know me like that.
Yeah.
But at that moment, it felt genuine. But, and I already had kind of thought that because New York is the #1 market.
Right.
And so when you talk about that, and then it'd be nice not to have to move. It'd be nice to do radio in a place where you grew up and know people and you're familiar. Because I think one of the things, and they had told me that I could take car service back and forth from Brooklyn to Philly every day and they would set it up.
Oh, wow.
And I said I wouldn't want to do that because I feel like if you're going to be representing an area, you should live there.
Yeah.
And so I really had actually started looking at places when we were having conversations, like, where would I live? I would want to live in the middle of everything so that I could get acclimated.
Right.
Because I don't think that it would be good for me to be a local person in the market and not know anything and be coming from Brooklyn every day.
Right. I think I'm with you. And I don't think I would want to travel to Philly either.
Yeah. I mean, it's a long commute every day. Can you imagine? I'd be knocked out.
Yeah, I think that's, yeah, you would. You announced that you were leaving the Breakfast Club.
Hey now. I'm still there.
You are still there. What will you miss most about the show?
No, I'm playing. I mean, I do our listeners honestly like the most because we have certain people that call up all the time that I'm used to hearing. It's like your friends, for real. And so I know I'll miss them, and hopefully they'll be listening to my show as well. Right. To Way Up with Angela Yee right after. But I know it's like different times and different things going on, and I'm establishing something brand new. You know, everybody that worked there, we had some times. Yes. So that's fun. And I think the ability, like on a Friday when everybody doesn't do interviews, to be able to be done with work at 9 a.m. I'll miss that. Yeah. Yes, you will. This was a question from someone on our team. Why did you decide to tell the public you were leaving the show so early? Well, it was a necessity because we need to find people. So they need to find who's replacing me. Right. And I need to get a co-host. Mm-hmm. And so that's a process too. So I have to be able to put that out there so that we can also post that these jobs are open. Right. So, and then I need a whole staff. And so, yeah. And so that's part of the reason why we had to announce it. Mm-hmm. And also they have to shop my show to make sure to see which stations are picking it up. We're starting off in a minimum of 30 different markets, but we have to be able to be like, hey, this show is going to be available. So it is a whole process. It's not like you can just announce it and 2 weeks later you're out of here. Yeah, you're out of there. It is a listen, and I was thinking I was going to be done way earlier than I was. Right. And then it's also vacation time. And so they didn't think it was a good idea for me to start. Initially, I was going to start in October, but then they didn't think it was a good idea with Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's coming. So they were like, let's get through all of that. And our studio is moving from downtown to Midtown. Mm-hmm. And so they were also like, let's get you started in the new studio instead of having you in the old studio. So when I start in January, you know, it'll be after vacation. It'll be in a brand new studio. Mm-hmm. And it was just a lot of technical reasons. And so that's why. But I did think I would be gone a lot earlier. And even if I wasn't there still on the show, at least I could be preparing for mine. But I think they wanted to make sure that everything was like, you know, okay for the guys too.
I got a call for The Cosby Show. Okay. And I was like,
what was your role? Were you
Shaniqua Watkins?
Okay.
When Erica Alexander came on, when she joined the cast, they wanted her to have some friends. Okay. And what was your name? Shaniqua Watkins. And I had 2 lines. Okay. It was high slide and by slide. It was like, but trust me, like now that I'm like an actress, like, it's harder when you only have like 2 lines because you got to kill those 2 lines. Like, it's better when you have a little bit more to work with.
Right.
So this is when Alan Payne had come on as well.
Yeah.
And it was really cool to be a part of that because I was a fan of the Cosby Show.
Of course.
And at the time, I wasn't really focused on acting, so it was like, what?
Right.
So I went to the audition, and I ended up getting it.
Was anyone we know in the audition room?
It was, and I don't even want to say because they're like, one is like a really big actress now.
But they're really big actress.
Yes, it was. One was Nabushi Wright.
Okay.
And Ingenue, the one that played in the Serena,
the mom,
Venus
story,
who is
she's amazing,
phenomenal.
She also did she play in,
I think it was her
in the Clark Sisters, the mom.
Yes. Oh my God, did you see that? It was amazing.
She killed it.
No, it was incredible. She's so talented, which is why I don't even like to say that. It's something I got my little 2-line part.
No, but everything is full circle.
Yeah, but this was 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did any weird interactions with Bill Cosby when you were on set?
No, you know what? For me, it wasn't. He was like, I mean, Bill Cosby was like, you know, you couldn't even really get to him. He was like Bill Cosby.
Right.
But he did actually set me up with his son, Ennis, who went on to pass.
Oh.
So,
did you go on a date?
Yeah.
Okay. How was that?
It was great.
Oh,
well,
nice.
it was actually not that great because I don't think he was that into me. He was so cute. But I remember like us all meeting at this club in New York, and I was so excited to go out with him. And he just was like,
he's not that into me.
I don't think he was that into me.
No sparks.
No. You know, a lot of people refer to me as her sidekick or whatever, but we were always very equal. She just had a bigger personality.
Right.
This is what it is. And now what happened is the show comes on.
Yes.
And I know what I filmed, but I don't know all the crap everyone's talking about me in their confessionals.
Right.
I didn't know like we were supposed to talk crap about each other in the confessionals.
So you didn't know?
No, I was nice to everybody. I was like, I love Sheree. She's awesome. She's great. And they'd be like, oh, she's like, Nene was like, they were calling me like single black female stalker. Like I was like obsessed with Nene. Like when I tell you they had me looking crazy, and then everything was falling apart with Peter and I because we were trying to get married and the money was crazy. We were trying to build the restaurant. We were a hot mess. It was insane.
Right.
So I was like, I'm so confused. I was like, wait, why are they saying all these things? They're so nice to me when I see them. Right till they were wearing me out, girl. I was like, oh my God, they all hate me. So anyway, I remember I was like, okay, well, my one friend is supposed to be Nene. Now, I don't know what happened once these cameras came up. I don't know how this reality TV thing works, but she's my friend.
Right.
So as a joke, because I think I do have a funny sense of humor, I was like, you know what? I don't know what's going on, but I feel like I need to put her on the contract. Like, are we friends or not? So I just wrote thinking, oh, she's going to think this is so funny. And she's going to be like, oh, Cynthia, you're so crazy. And everybody was going to think I was so great and funny, right? Girl, I wrote out the friend contract and I took it to the scene. And it was like a really weird scene. I think we were at Kim Zolciak's house. And I could already tell that as soon as I pulled up, I was like, the energy ain't right. Like,
it's feeling weird.
Like they're going to be mean. Like something's not going to be right here. Mm-hmm. So I get there and I think she's doing a scene with Kim, and like I'm just kind of hanging around, and I don't know what's happening. So finally, I was like, "Hey, Nene, can I talk to you for a second?" Because my feelings were hurt, but I didn't really know how to really approach it because we're on a TV show,
right? And
I didn't really want to fall out with my only friend, so I was like, you know, I don't know, whatever I said to her, and I was like, "Well, I just want to give you this because you know I love you," and da 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 da. So she got it, and then the next thing I know. That friendship contract, like then it like had like other scenes where they were like, okay, Cynthia, you're good now, you can go home. So I'm like, okay, well that seemed like it went well. And then I leave, and then all I see is these other scenes where they're like passing around. Like, she's crazy. Who does this? Who tries to put something? Like when I tell you, I was like, oh my God, it was a joke. Like they were supposed to be laughing, and it just made it seem like I was like a Nene stalker. So
that was
my first season was pretty much.
That was brutal.
It was tough.
It was great. It was great as a viewer. I read your book, and I remember in your book is when I learned about you being attacked, assaulted in 2001.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that? I'm sure that was life-changing for you.
It was. What's crazy was I was literally talking about it last night to someone. I was like, people don't understand when you suffer head trauma, like no matter the extent, your head gonna swell up. And I was like, remember when Martin fought Tommy Hearns and his head swelled up? when after I realized, because I'm a person, when your adrenaline is rushing, you don't feel anything.
Right.
So I'm just like, what just happened? Everybody's like,
explain what happened.
So it was a show out in the Bay Area, San Francisco. And that night was just real weird because they said, like, a lot of people used to just be outside and sitting it up.
Yeah.
So I was getting in my car and I remember like a stalker or whoever it was, a dude walked up to me and like literally took a bottle and cracked it on my head. So to this day, I still have the stitches, but my doctor was a cosmetic surgeon. So he sewed me back good and I cleaned it and kept the wound fresh. Cause people, you be like, oh, they must have got cut when they was little. And I could look at their cosmetic, they didn't keep it clean. Because if you clean it and you massage it, you won't even know.
Right.
Now my hair don't grow back there, so that's why I wear wigs.
Right.
But anyway, moving right along, it was just like, after I realized what had happened, I remember that day, like, my shoe broke and everybody's like, your head is open, you're bleeding profusely. And I thought I was gonna die. I said, damn it, where's my shoe? I had like these Dolce & Gabbana, Misa had just got me these Dolce & Gabbana American flag shoes. I was like, my shoe! Damn, my head, where's my heel? The heel had came off my shoe.
Oh, you are crazy.
And I went to the doctor and they wouldn't let me see it because sometimes you could be going through the worst thing in life. And once you see it, that's when you be like, oh. So I was just like, can I just see what just happened? They was like, are you sure? I was like, yeah, let me see. And I looked at the gash. So when your head splits, it like opens up. And I was just like, I'm gonna die. Jesus, call the ambulance. I was already at the ER. So I was like, who did this? Like, why would you? Then I started thinking about like, who did this? Why would you do this to a female? Like, what did I do to deserve this?
Yeah.
But sometimes you just gotta be on point. And I just remember after that, they was like, get on your flight and go straight home. Because technically I shouldn't have been flying.
No.
Because
and that's a long flight for you to come
from
back.
Yeah, from the
California to
West Coast to the East Coast. So I immediately had to go on rest. And that was like, my album was coming out like 3 days before that. 3 days after that. Mm-hmm. So it was just like, I couldn't do any album promo. And I was like, whoever did this was a setup. This is weird. But my head swole up. And I was like, oh my God, child, I look like a pumpkin out this a jack-o'-lantern out this bitch. But I was like, I get it. So ever since then, I realized everybody's not gonna love you and everybody's not gonna hate you. You just gotta always just watch your back.
Yeah.
So not saying that things aren't gonna happen, but I wasn't on point at that time. I was just walking because I was just walking around thinking I was normal.
Not who you were.
Regular. Yeah. Like, but you got all these songs out, you just walk around, all right, good night. The fuck? Get your ass in that car and stop waving that way. For real. And then I started thinking, oh my God, the Illuminati's out to get me. I was on some weird stuff. I started reading the Bible. So, oh yeah, that's what it happened. They said Jesus up and I was next. Like, I was just on some weird stuff, but I realized just watch your back and stay focused and realize who you are. You gotta stay covered.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you also, like, when you're coming up with what you're going to discuss, like, for example, you talk about the whole Chris Rock, Will Smith thing. Are they friends of yours? And if so, do you run something like that before one of them? Or do you just, y'all don't care because y'all comedians and it just is what it is?
Well, with this special in particular, I didn't have time to do anything. So whatever I said that night is what I said. And so, like, me and Chris hasn't talked in a while. I mean, we were, at one time we were really cool. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, things happen and you be like, I don't know if I really like this dude like that.
Okay.
But we cool. It's still respect there, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, it's like, how do I not say nothing about that? And I didn't see any, I've seen kind of like all the other comics tiptoe around it.
Yeah. You didn't.
I didn't tiptoe at all. But it wasn't disrespectful to Will or Chris, because to be honest with you, I really wish those two would talk. You know, I respect Will a little more because he's owning it. Mm-hmm. And he's apologized a million times.
Yeah.
Chris Rock is interesting because he's kind of dancing around and maybe talk stuff on stage sometimes, but won't talk to this man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, either you're going to let me hit you back or we're going to have a discussion. I just think they're too big in Hollywood, especially as black men. It'd be beautiful if they could talk.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So,
Right.
I don't know. We'll see.
Okay, let's talk about this prayer that, why you laughing at me?
You're like, okay, cool. No.
Yeah, no, because I know everybody like, why is she still asking him about it? But I mean, I was interested because I'm always wondering, like,
it ain't going nowhere anytime soon. I don't know why everybody keep thinking it's just going to, it's not going to disappear until Chris really said something.
Right, I agree.
And he hasn't. And I wonder what that's about.
Yeah. Is it true that Oprah offered you a talk show? Or not a talk show, she offered you a show?
The OWN network.
The OWN network.
A couple of networks did. There was like a whole little thing happening for a reality show.
Oh, for a reality show. Mm-hmm. And obviously you declined it.
Yes.
Okay, we're not going to see you on reality TV?
No. I mean, you can see me on my social. That is reality TV.
It is reality.
It's just on, on my social. I can be in control of that at all times.
Is that the reason why you turned down?
Yeah, because for me, it was more about my kids, my family. And at this time, because this was in 2020 as well, my daughter, just turning 20 years old, or at that time, like 19. Mm-hmm. And my stepdaughter, they were in their 20s. My son is little. Yeah. But the girls I was thinking about, they're just entering into the make all the mistake years.
Okay.
And they should be able to do that privately, just like I did, just like they did. Okay. Right. And I don't want the world seeing them under this type of microscope and, forming their own opinion. They're going to do that anyway. Mm-hmm. But I allow them to share what they want to share. When they wanted to, get in on videos, they would get in on videos, that type of thing. And so I was like, they didn't ask for this.
Right.
And so everybody also doesn't enjoy being on camera.
Yeah.
Like I do. I love it.
Right.
Right. It took a long time for my husband to even be cool with it.
Right.
And so I was like, nah, we're good.
Were you apprehensive at first about having your family on your social media?
No, in the very beginning, when I would cook in my kitchen live, mm-hmm. you would always see Choice come in because she wanted to taste whatever I'm cooking. Mm-hmm. And then Quest, he could barely see over the countertop at that time. Mm-hmm. And so, because he was like 5. Mm-hmm. And so you would always see them in and out the kitchen because it would be live. It was just in my house. I'm cooking, girl. Right. You hear the dog barking. It's this real thing. Mm-hmm. You never saw my husband. He might walk by fast, but you would hear his voice be like, man, them people looking in our house. Like in them early years, he was like, man, here you go again on this live. And got these people looking at me. Man, I want to just come in the kitchen and get what I need to get. Until them checks started rolling in. He'd be like, man, you ain't doing no video today? Ain't the time for you to do one of them videos. But I let them do it at their comfort, right? And so then, of course, about 2 years ago, my husband, we started doing Fridays with Tab and Chance. Mm-hmm. And he was a little nervous in the beginning, mm-hmm. and now he's more and more comfortable. Mm-hmm. We just, came back, started back doing it. And now he'd be like, okay, now he's doing little speaking engagements. And I'm so proud of him. But yeah.
Your face completely lights up.
That's my man. That's my bestie.
I want to talk about you becoming a vegan. I know it was inspired by something, so you kind of talk about that?
I got sick mm-hmm. in 2016.
Okay.
And so I woke up in like a normal day, but I had like this headache in the back of my head and mm-hmm. my neck was tight. But I had this car accident when I was in high school. So over the years, I would always wake up, people say, oh, I got a crook in my neck, and you wake up and you stiff. So I was like, oh, I'm just probably having another episode. But this headache stayed in the back of my head and rested there for 1 year and 7 months. Every single day, it never went away. And it started to kind of move through my body. So I started having chronic pain through my body, chronic fatigue. I would fall when I would walk. I just could not get well. And doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. Mm-hmm. And so I was probably in the doctor like every week, every month, doing blood work, doing MRIs. I took every drug they offered me. Even though they couldn't diagnose me with anything, I was desperate. And so I was probably getting worse because I was taking all the drugs, the steroids, the shots. They were putting shots in my head, shots in my spine. They were just trying anything. And I just couldn't get better. And then my daughter came home from school one day. She was like, Mama, we saw this documentary at school. I think you should watch it.
Okay.
And it was What the Health on Netflix. Mm-hmm. And so I watched it, and it was pretty like instant, like a light bulb moment for me. And they started talking about not all diseases are hereditary, that we can eat the same thing in our family. We got the same bloodline, and it can cause the same disease. And so I started thinking, I was like, well, my mama died at 51 of a rare disease that there's no cause or cure. My daddy's 71. He's the oldest man to ever live in our family. My aunts, my uncles, like people die very young or they get sick at young ages. And the only thing we had in common was how we ate. And so it was also the only thing I had not tried. And so I was like, well, you know what? And I wasn't a bad eater, right? But I used to eat to look a certain way.
Okay.
I never ate to feel a certain way, right? And so I was like, well, I can give it 30 days. So I told my husband, you know what, let's do a 30-day vegan challenge. I'm desperate. What do we have to lose?
Right.
And so in the first 10 days of doing the vegan challenge, my headache disappeared. And I was like, okay, Lord, I'm on to something, And then after, day after day, I started getting energy again. And it's like pain just started to leave my body. So after the 30 days, I was like, I ain't going back. This is going to be my life. And here I am almost, 5.5 years later almost.
So wait a minute. So the diet completely changed, I guess healed you?
Yep.
So you think it was meat? You think it was dairy?
I think
what do you think it is?
Well, I'm allergic to dairy.
Okay.
Like most of us. Hello?
Yes.
Okay.
But I'm not a vegetarian. I just don't eat red meat.
Okay.
But I
didn't eat red meat or pork. I haven't had since I was 15.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why I said I wasn't a bad eater. I only ate chicken, fish, and turkey.
Same.
But I am allergic, to dairy, and I'm allergic to soy.
Okay.
And so what I think is because, with meat, I was eating chicken all the time. And so the things that they pump it with have everything in it.
Yeah.
I think I was allergic to all of that because, we're eating all of that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And I also feel like I hate thinking about eating, like being vegetarian or vegan, because I feel like it's just like a healthy thing to do anyway. Because I feel like it probably contributes to like different kind of ailments and diseases.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a whole lot. Like I also was suffering from depression and manic panic attacks, right? Because when you're sick and you know that something is wrong and nobody can tell you what it is, that causes you to be in a panic all the time.
Right.
Because I really thought I was going to die. Right. And so I was just like, why can't they tell me what's wrong with me? I know my body and this ain't it. Like something is wrong. And so I also, after, changing how I ate and started feeling like depression left.
Okay. I was going to ask you.
Left. Absolutely. But, the saying is we are what we eat. Right. And so now the way they mass produce all these animals, and animals are in a state of panic.
Yeah.
And they're depressed and we're eating.
Do you find it difficult to date since Lil Baby? Like, is it hard?
It's hard because a lot of these guys scared. Like I've had a situation and it was like a little situation. And one of his friends reached out like, we ain't doing that.
One of Lil Baby's friends reached out? We not, okay.
So it's just like, all right. Like,
I guess we not doing
it. Is this my life? Is this what I'm going to have to deal with? But whatever.
Do you think guys are intimidated because of the money, or they're scared, or?
I think people are intimidated only because like we have a child together, and it's like, no matter the situation, we always are cool, and we don't we don't let the negative really interfere with our personal relationship when it comes to just us being friends, because we always cool no matter what. So
okay. Do you date within the industry?
Like the rap industry?
Or just entertainment? Like,
I would never date like anybody I've ever experienced. I call it an experience. Anybody I've ever experienced.
What's an experience?
An experience is just a situation.
Okay, gotcha.
I don't say dating, or it's just you got to experience new people to learn life. Like that's how you learn and grow as a person.
You are old soul, but go ahead.
Low key, but I call it an experience. So if I was to experience somebody else in the, like someone of status, it's not going to be a rapper. I always tell my child's father that, like, you don't got to worry about me doing, even though it's not his business. If I wanted to date a guy that was in the rap industry, just respect for myself.
Okay, gotcha. I feel like that's fair.
Yeah, it's fair.
Yeah. You've been really open about the work you've had done. Can you clarify what you've had done?
So I got some injections, which is illegal. Don't do that. That's why I really don't like talking about it, because I influence a lot of younger girls, and I don't want them to feel like, oh, well, Jada got it, I need to get it, because I know a lot of people who got these same injections and they had to get theirs removed, or they're rejecting, or they're having
your advice
complications.
Is not to do that.
So my advice is not to do it, because everybody is different. So that's why when people ask about like surgeries and stuff, I really never say like, I never tell them I didn't get anything done, but I don't like to advocate for ass shot or butt shots. Right. It's not okay.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I'm with you on that, but I feel like I've seen you go online and say, I have not had X, Y, and Z.
Oh yeah,
so that's
I like to always tell them I've never had a BBL. Right. They try to make that a thing, and it's like, don't put no surgery on me that I didn't have. But I also have a breast augmentation, so I got shots. Like I've had my shots going on 6 years.
So you got them 6 years ago?
Yeah, I was 19 when I got my shots. So Yeah, I kind of just like don't talk about it only because I don't want to steer girls the wrong way. Say for instance, they go get him because Jada got him and something happens. You know what I'm saying? Like it's something I just really don't like to be an advocate for.
Did you have any complications?
No.
Okay.
Thank God. I haven't had complications, but I still got a long life to live. So who's to say I won't ever have?
And that's the thing about it. It's like we don't know. It hasn't been around long enough to know. Yeah. What about your face? Have you done anything to your face?
No, I haven't. Well, I got my eyelids lifted.
Oh,
but
fancy.
Yeah, that's real fancy. But I did that because I have like a lazy eye, low key. And I had droopy eyelids. Okay. Well, I mean, they fixed it.
I need to see before and
after.
Yeah,
they fixed it.
Okay.
But
not no more, child.
Yeah, I had droopy eyelids. So they just lifted them up. And that was like the only thing I did to my face.
Okay. Any other plans?
No.
Well, it's officially a wrap on season 1 of Brutally Honest with Jasmine Brand, executive produced by Meyer Fatto. This has been an amazing season. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We will be back for another season. But before we let you go, we're going to show you some behind the scenes footage of what it actually took to do an entire season of this show. See you soon. I'm going to be talking to activist Tamika Mallory. I'm excited to be talking to my sister Jasmine. We have fashion icon, entrepreneur, overall hustler, Dapper Dan. I'm super excited.
What slavery did to us here.
Yo, Jada Wade checking in.
I knew what I wanted and I kind of just had a plan and made it work.